Becky Dowd, and this is The Journey to Salvation. Join me as we walk alongside real people and hear the unique journeys that led them to faith in Jesus. My guest today is Vanessa Davis. Hello, Vanessa.
Hi, Becky.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good. I'm glad you came in today to share your story with us.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure.
So, Vanessa, you are related to episode 2, which is Zack, and episode 4, which is Jeremiah. Zack is your husband. Jeremiah is one of your 3 sons.
Yes, he's my baby.
Yes, the baby. And so I heard your story. I guess I've known you for about a year now, but I heard your story not too long ago. And just wanted you to come in and share that with us and with others. Can you just give us some background information, how it was growing up for you, maybe until you reached 18 or so?
Okay, well, I grew up in a small town, Barstow, California. A lot of people know that town because it's on the way to Vegas, but other than that, it's just a pit stop to Vegas. And I lived there for about 13 years. I was raised by my grandparents, but my mom was always in the picture. She had me at a young age. She was 15, and so, it was hard for her. She was young, like I said, and I grew up where we didn't know God. My grandparents didn't go to church. They were Catholics, and they didn't even go to church then. So it's like, somebody comes and talks to them about Jesus. It's like, I'm Catholic. And that was it. So, we didn't have that upbringing, knowing Jesus or anything like that. But, when I was younger, like my grandma, she used to like to play cards a lot, and she would be hanging out with her friends, drinking. And she would have me go to the refrigerator and get her a beer. And I'd be like, okay, so I'm like 3 or 4 years old, and, and then she would say, oh, well, you need to taste it first. And so I would take a drink, of her beer. And, so I was like, to me,
did you like the taste of it at 3?
I guess I did.
Yeah.
I guess. And, so, it was like a game we played, and I just thought, okay, so I always had this, wanted to smoke and drink like throughout grade school, and I remember one time in the 4th grade, I actually got caught with a pack of cigarettes in my purse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some little boy told on me, and
so you started smoking that
suspended. Yeah, I started smoking. I was probably like around 10 years old. I was sneaking cigarettes, and back then they actually let you, like my mom would write a note, and I could go down to the gas station and they'd sell me a pack of cigarettes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I ended up starting to forge her name and buying my own cigarettes. And I'd stash them out in the desert in a bush and, go smoke out there.
Yeah.
But, I started smoking at a young age. And basically, like my grandparents, they were really good to me. My grandpa, he was very into education. They both were. He was an electronic engineer. He worked for like NASA and, places like that. And, we lived in a good neighborhood. And, but I was always told like by my aunt, we were 8 years apart. She was like my sister, that I was that I was just the grandchild. So, I was always reminded of that. And I never really felt that worthy, even at a young age. And my mom, because she had me at a young age, was basically the black sheep of the family, and that just basically kind of went off on me too, to where I felt unworthy as well. So at the age of 13, we moved about 45 minutes away. My mom was going to college. So my grandparents bought a duplex and we moved there. So I'm like in 8th grade. And I'm already, started smoking weed and just lost and just not wanting to go to school. I was always insecure. I just basically, when I did move, I was like almost at that high school year to where I was leaving all my friends that I knew since elementary, junior high. And it was just really hard for me. So basically, I didn't even really go to school. I would just stay home. And like my mom didn't even know because she was going to school. And I remember it took the high school like 3 months until my mom figured out that I hadn't been going to school.
Oh, wow.
And during that time, I mean, I can remember the first time me and my mom started smoking weed together. We had moved there, and she was really just wanting to smoke weed. She didn't know anybody. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened I had some that my friend gave me. And it was like, I felt bad for her. And I was like, I didn't want to tell her I was smoking because I used to give her such a hard time about it. But I was like, Mom, do you really want to smoke? Because I have some. And she's like, shut up. Don't even tease me. Like, don't even play with me, Vanessa. And I'm like, no, for real, Mom. So I brought it out to her, and she was all happy. And then she ended up taking it from me and smoking it all. But, so, like, we didn't know the Lord. She didn't know any better, and we didn't know. But so then after that, we pretty much smoked together. Like, she would hang out with all my friends because she was young. Mm-hmm. So my friends would come over, and my place was like the party house where everybody would come over. And, all my friends had discipline. They all had rules, and they had to, like, get home at a certain time, had mm-hmm. curfews, where I was just able to do basically whatever I wanted.
Did you like that? Or did you want that structure?
I wanted that structure. Yeah. I really did. And I just felt like, and several friends weren't even allowed to come to my house anymore because of that. So, yeah. So, probably like during that time, like between 10th grade, 11th grade, I don't know, I started doing meth. And I can't remember the first time I did that with my mom, but we both, we were both doing it. Mm. And it was just, a really horrible time. I always knew that it wasn't right, and I just wanted to do better. But, my mom was more like my best friend, and I always tease and say that I raised her because a lot of the time she was depressed, and lots of times I had me and my brother, he's 8 years younger than me. Well, he's passed away now, but it was just me and him, and I had to take care of him, and it was hard too because me and my mom would be in the room, and we would just kind of leave him out there with his friends while we're getting high. So, it was like really just dark years during that time. And so basically those were like pretty much my teenage years. And then when I was 19 or 18, I met my first husband, my older boy's dad. And I didn't know anything about God, and he never said nothing about it, but he ended up coming over, and like he just stayed at my house, and he didn't leave forever. And I was like, my mom's like, when's he going home? I was like, I don't know. He'd been there for like a month or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we were just all, getting high and stuff, I guess. And we got mad, we got into an argument with my mom, and I had a car. We took off for the weekend, and during that weekend, my mom was sitting outside, and she was like just alone, no money, no drugs, no nothing. And I guess she was just sitting out there and asking God if he was real to show up. So we get home after a little weekend runaway trip. And next thing you know, I guess during that time, my ex, his mom came looking for him. Well, she knew the Lord, and she was actually a vessel for God to bring my mom to church.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I get home, and my mom, I guess she already went to church, and she's like, yeah, I just gave my life to God. I'm saved. And like, she didn't want to smoke anymore. She didn't want to do drugs. And I'm thinking, like, this is not good.
Because you still wanted to do
yes,
those things.
I still wanted to. I was like 18. And, my mom always let me do what I wanted to do. So she says, you know what, Vanessa, she's like, just trust me on this. God is real. I've always let you do what you want to do. but trust me, come to church with me. God is real. And I was just like, all right. So I went to church and I was about 19 and I just opened my heart to God and we started reading our Bible together and God just became so real. I remember I was in my room, me and my ex, and we were painting my room. I wanted to paint it pink. And we're painting it and, we're getting high and I was like, I can't do this. God was just all over me. I mean, it was just, I can't do this. And then from there, I was like, and you got to go. We're not even supposed to be sleeping together. All of this is wrong. I didn't know. Nobody ever told me any of that stuff. I didn't grow up like that. So it was hard. And then I found out I was pregnant with my oldest. So that made it even harder to go to church and then try to keep him away because we weren't married. He was living on the streets. He didn't want to. He didn't want to go to church. He didn't want to.
He didn't want to give up that life of drugs.
And his mom was not having it. She's a Christian, and she was just not having that. So I felt sorry for him a lot. I would sneak him in and stuff, and but I struggled with that a lot. Well, a couple years later, he did end up getting it together. He had a job, and I think I was 22. We ended up getting married. I found out I was pregnant again with my second son, and we ended up getting married. I moved away, and, everything was good. I was going to church, and I found a church right away down when I lived close to LA. And so I was going to church. I took both of my kids, I had one in a car seat and the other one, he was walking, but I took them both in, went in by myself, and I was like, I just had Jesus all over me, and I just needed him, and I knew I needed him, and I wanted, him. I was hungry for him, so I found a good church, and we did, we were always busy doing something. I was in a play. We took that play everywhere we would go. We would go to other baby churches, and we would put that play on. Well, we'd go outreach all day, pass out flyers, and then that night we'd put the play on, and, a lot of people would give their life to Jesus, and it was really cool. During this time, though, I would come home, and my ex, he was just really upset. Like, the enemy used him to get to me. Like, he would throw my Bible. He would just accuse me of, flirting with the guys at church and all this stuff, and it was just horrible. But when I look back now, I had the most peace then, even though he was such a jerk. And finally, I grew a lot during that time spiritually. Like, I was always with my pastor and his wife, and, it was a small church, but there was a lot of young kids there in high school. Their daughters went, and they would bring in other people in church. So we had a pretty good group there. I was like the oldest. I was 24, and they're like 18, 17. So yeah, that was a really good time. And I got tired of arguing with my ex. And so I left him. My pastor's wife told me I should leave him because he was kind of abusive. Well, he was verbally, and he would throw things at me. He never actually hit me, but he was really mean. So I left, and, I stayed with a friend in church. She only had a 1-bedroom. She just had another baby. I had my 2 boys. Jeremiah wasn't born yet, so it was just my older ones, and we were just all stuck in this tiny apartment. And I did the best, I could when I stayed there. I got a job. I was working and everything. And I gave him the car. I was like, you can have the car. I just left. And so I ended up, one of the neighbors really didn't like me there, and she told the landlord I was there, so I had to leave. And I didn't know where I was going to go. Well, I went to my friend's house, one of my other friends, to go stay the night there, and thinking, what am I going to do now? And next thing you know, my ex shows up, and I'm like, I'm just going to go with him. So I went back with him. He had ended up moving out of the apartment we lived in, so we went back. I went to his new place that he got. He was working for pest control, so he did that, and I was like, I just didn't want to live there. It was real small, and it just wasn't what I wanted. I had a good job. I was working at Allstate Insurance, and everything was going so good. But then I got sidetracked and I didn't know what to do. And my pastor's wife, she just was against him, but yet she wasn't helping me try to find, where am I going to go? So we ended up moving back up to the high desert where I was from. And that's when all chaos broke loose. I just started getting high with him. And next thing you know, I just couldn't take him anymore. He just made me, and I kicked him out finally. I was like, you got to go. And then after that, it just wasn't the same. I lost God. I left him. And I just got into my own head that, okay, now I could at least be without him. I could, it's sad to say, but I was like, I could get high on my own now. I could have my own stuff. I don't need to share with him because he was always all mean about it. And I just did my own thing and thought, okay, great, this is good. Finally, I could just, be myself and not have to walk on eggshells and be somebody else. And so I didn't think of it as a big deal, but I ended up, leaving God. And I just figured, when I'm ready to come back, I will. Well, that took a long time. And I didn't realize how long it would take. In 2006, well, first of all, I lived with my mom. I had to move back with her because I couldn't afford the rent after I kicked him out. And so I stayed with my mom. Well, she was really fighting with me all the time. And we did not get along. And it was just really bad to where, worse than when I was with my husband, it seemed like. And I'm like, what is going on here? I was like 28 years old.
So you were using drugs, though? And
yeah, I was. And she wasn't.
Yeah.
And even though I was working and everything, she knew I was getting high. So she was upset, which I can't blame her, But she got pretty physical with me, though, which I didn't think was right. So it was just really bad. And I ended up with my youngest son's dad, and Jeremiah. And he was like an angel that came into my life because he didn't have it all together, and I really didn't like him. I was not looking for a relationship, but I wanted to get away from my mom, and he took me out of there, and we got our own place. And then we ended up moving to Denver, Colorado, and that's where Jeremiah was born. And I got homesick, and I ended up going back to California after I had Jeremiah because my family was back there, and we have a small family. So, and then it really got worse. I just turned really horrible. I really went back to California, too, because I wanted to get high. And they didn't have the drugs over there that I liked, the meth. And I was really missing it and really bad. And so I quit my job, and I was working at a taxi company there. It was a pretty cool job. And I quit, and we left. And we got our own place, but I just was not, I was so depressed. And it wasn't the same. And so basically he ended up leaving me. He walked out on me on Valentine's Day. And I found him at my best friend's house that morning.
Oh, no.
Yeah, him and another guy. And I was just like, wow. I was so hurt.
Yeah.
I was so hurt because I did end up having love for him. And, yeah, he walked out. I didn't hear from him for like 5 months later. During that time, my grandparents, they own a duplex, the duplex that we lived in, that my grandpa bought when my mom started going to school. And anyway, just so happened as people were moving out. So my grandma was like, you can move in. These people are moving out. So I was like, thank God, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't working, just had a baby. I have 2 other boys, and I'm like so depressed, and my heart's just broken, and he won't talk to me. He won't answer my calls. And so I move in there, and I just figure, well, I'm just going to get high. I'm just not going to care. And I didn't care. So I would let people in my house just so they would give me drugs just to hang out and do their drugs. And it was just an awful mess. Instead of going to God, I went backwards, and I just regret that to this day. I knew better. I knew better by then what I should do, but I didn't do it. And during that time, I met Zack, and he would come over. I had actually met him before, and I liked him a lot, but the girl that introduced me to him liked him too. So she kind of did not let us talk, or else, honestly, I think we would have got together way before, So anyway, he ended up, I ended up seeing him. I was like, hey, I'm moving over there next door, because I met him through the girl that lived next door in the duplex, my grandparents' duplex. And in fact, I moved into that apartment, and I was like, I'm moving over there. Come on over whenever you want. And so one night he came over, and, I guess you would want to say it's love at first sight, but it wasn't. But, I really liked him. He was funny, just like he is now. He's funny. He's just outgoing, and he was like the normalest person in my life then, if that's a word, normalist. But, he was the only one that would come over and make sense where everybody else was just using me. And he would tell me that. And I knew that. I didn't care. But I was like, and he's like, I'm not going to stay at your house unless you get rid of all these people. And so finally I was like, you guys got to go, because I really like this guy. And I think, he makes me feel normal, even though I was so messed up still. And I didn't want a relationship. And I was so mean to him. I don't even know why he stayed. I mean, probably because of Jeremiah. He fell in love with him right away. And I think it was God. I believe now when I look back, it was all God's plan, because he knew that what was going to happen now and how he was going to use us. But so during that time, we ended up together, and it was chaos in the beginning. And he still stayed. And in 2006, I ended up going to jail, and the cops came. I got this cat because we had a mouse problem, and it was funny because I didn't really even like cats, but somebody just happened to be giving away a cat, and I was like, I'll take it to get rid of the mice. Well, that cat was just stupid, because next thing you know, the cat's there just like playing with the mice, not even killing them. And anyway, I had a screen door, like one of those security doors, but it didn't lock. So me and Zack had been fighting, and he was gone with his cousin all day. I'd been up for several nights, and my older boys were in the living room, and I told them, I said, keep an eye on your brother. I'm going to go lay down. So during that time, I don't even know how long it was. My son comes running in the room, and he's like, Mom, the cops are here. And I'm like, why? So I get up to go to the door, and they have my son. They have Jeremiah. And he had ended up chasing out that cat all the way down the driveway and who knows where in his diaper.
Oh, wow. How old was he then?
He was about 2. Yeah. And so the cop comes, and I'm just like, I'm a wreck. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I'd never been in trouble in my life ever. That's just something we did not do. And if you did get in trouble, we are not bailing you out. So I thought, well, okay, so... And then Zack was there too, and they started questioning him. And I didn't want him to get in trouble because there's some other things that he was dealing with. And I was like, well, they asked if they could search my room, and they ended up finding my pipe. And that's when just everything was like, and next thing you know, we're in handcuffs. And, it was the saddest part of my life. And they took us both to jail. And I just remember I was yelling at the cop, and he's like, they were able to call my mom for her to come over and take, over with the kids. And he was like, you're going to thank me later, because your kids aren't going to go with CPS. You're going to thank me. So I went to jail crying. I'm so scared. I've never been to jail. And I thought, okay, well, I've never been in trouble, so I should get out. Well, God had another plan. I ended up getting 6 months, and I had to go to school, take classes, and all this stuff. It was called the Inroads program. And I guess people were telling me, yeah, they used you as an example. Either way, I believe it was God now, because during that time, I only did 4 months, but during that time, it was horrible. I'd never been without my kids. They've always been with me. That's something I always prided myself on. And this was just horrible. And Zack got out, and I couldn't even talk to him. My mom didn't want me talking to him. His parents didn't like us together. Nobody wanted us together. So that just made us more want to be together and prove everybody wrong, So we did that. But it was hard. My kids would come and see me in jail, and, it's like my mom would bring them. Zack came and saw me a couple times too. And so after that horrible ordeal, I got out and I got a job. I think I tried to get high once, but I was like, what am I doing? So I quit that, and I started drinking. You go from one thing to another, they say. So I started drinking. Me and Zack, we weren't really together yet, but like living together. We would just sit in his dad's driveway or sit there and drink one tall can after another. And so we, it started off fun, like, okay, like we're not doing speed, so we're okay. We're just drinking. It's legal. But eventually that turned into a disaster as well. And so we ended up moving out. We got our own place, and we've been together since, going on 22 years with all of this. We started off, we're backwards. We started off horrible and, ended up good. But during that time, we were drinking so much, and Zack ended up almost dying several times. I was in and out of the hospital, and I ended up in a nursing home back in 2022. That time, like, we had already had our house. We've been there a long time. But we had just been drinking so much. We just didn't have any respect for each other. Everything was just, upside down. And so I go to the nursing home because I couldn't walk. They still never figured out what's wrong with my leg, but I was stuck in bed for 10 months, and I had to have people take full care of me. It was very humbling. It was embarrassing. It was just like, wow, why? I was sober during those 10 months, and I could have had somebody sneak in alcohol, but I didn't want to drink. I was there because of that. And I told Zack, I said, maybe you can try to stop during this time, go to a meeting or something, and we could, by the time I get out, we could both be sober. So that didn't happen. I ended up getting, they released me from there, and I still couldn't walk. But I had to give myself my own physical therapy, and I was just doing my own leg exercises and everything in bed because they weren't doing anything for me, and I'm just laying in bed. I knew that I was going to have to get up someday, and just getting a wheelchair was hard. And during that time when I was in there, like, my aunt that I was talking about was like my sister. She ended up having MS, and she had that for a long time. She was paraplegic towards the end. She couldn't even walk. She couldn't move at all. Her arms, nothing but her head. And she couldn't even talk anymore. So I was helping her take care of her too. And I was drinking a lot too during this time. But I was able to go over to my grandparents' house and spend time with them. So she passed away in May of 2022. And I really lost it then. That's the first person I've ever lost in my life.
Were you in the nursing home at that time?
Not yet. But I was. After that, I did go to the hospital for 2 weeks because I had to get several blood transfusions. I was bleeding a lot. So, I had to go get like these blood transfusions. I was in the hospital after she died. I'm grieving her. I'm in the hospital. And then I come out and I start drinking again. I was good for a minute, but during this time, after that, my grandfather, he went to a nursing home, and he was like 90, and my grandma was like 83, but he ended up coming back, and, I was there to be able to be there with him as well. We prayed with them, and he ended up passing away. I was there that night with my grandma. So it was my aunt, and then my grandpa, he passed away in July. She was in May, he was in July. And so then my grandma was afraid to stay by herself, so I stayed with her, and I would just go home during the day to whatever Zack needed, or, if anybody needed anything. But during that time, I was drinking a lot, and next thing you know, I just couldn't walk anymore. They had to call the ambulance to take me to the hospital, and that's when I went to the nursing home. And during that time, I had to get myself in a wheelchair on Thanksgiving to go see my grandma, because I knew that she was dying. She didn't want to live anymore after my grandpa, her husband, after 60-some years, and her daughter, her baby daughter, that was it. And she gave up, basically. So I got to say goodbye to her during that time. And so she passed away in December. So during, this, I'm going through all these emotions and feelings. And then March of that year, I get a phone call, and it's my son telling me that the highway patrol called my mom to go down to the hospital where he lived, and they wouldn't say what happened. So next thing you know, I get the phone call that my brother was in an accident and he passed away. So, that was the hardest, because it was just me and him. And he's my baby brother. And I was just like, wow, it was just too much. Like, I knew about my grandparents. I knew they were going to pass on. I knew my aunt was sick. But when my brother passed away, that was just too much. And I was in the nursing home. So I feel like maybe God protected me there, because who knows what I would have done. I just don't know. It gave me time to grieve. And, I was able to go to his funeral. And that's another thing. His funeral, there was so many people there that loved him. Like, it was just crowded. People were standing up. And I just thought, what's your funeral going to be like, Vanessa? Who's going to be there for you when you die? Are you going to have anybody there? Because you don't even talk to nobody, and all you do is drink. And what are your kids going to say? And what are they going to think? How'd your mom die? Oh, she was an alcoholic. She basically killed herself with alcohol. Do you want to go down like that? Do you want to stand in front of Jesus? And do you want to be like, oh, Lord, I could have done so much more, but, just barely make it in heaven and not even be proud of the things that God's done for you and the mercy he's had, or just be thankful? So all these things are going through my mind, and I had a lot of time to reflect on it. During that time, me and Zack were going through a hard time. My mom didn't want him drinking. He doesn't remember this, but my mom told him, she gave him an ultimatum: either you go or you quit drinking or go to a rehab. And he decided to leave, to go to his friend's house and stay there. And so that just basically, we almost separated. Everything just went like, you know what, that's it. You're going to pick him over quitting drinking. So it just got into a big old thing. During that time of our separation, he ended up in the hospital twice and almost died. He was on a ventilator. He was in a coma, and it was just really hard, and it was bad. And I just didn't know what was going to happen. I just kept drinking and drinking. You think I would have stopped, but I smelled alcohol in his breath one day, and I was just like, okay, if you're going to drink, I'm going to drink. And so that's where it started again. So me and him, we were getting along good. After he got out of the hospital, he was in Las Vegas. They took him all the way to Las Vegas, which is like a 2-hour drive from where I lived. And when he got out, I was like, I'm going to be a good wife. I'm going to take care of him, and I'm just going to love him and be good to him like God would want me to be, because I knew the word. I knew, and I was trying just to practice because I wanted things to work out. And during that time, he ended up, realizing he needed help. And his aunt lives here in Wynn, and she kept telling him about the program. And he was like, one day he went to a wedding, and he just, felt like he had to come to Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And I was like, really? Why so far? I was really hurt, but, I wanted him to live.
Yeah.
So
in his story, he talks about being at that wedding.
Yes.
And his Aunt Jean. His Aunt Jean, who is actually episode 7 of my podcast, she was just telling him, not really lecturing him on what he should do, but just telling her story about what changes she's made in her life and what God has done in her life.
No, yeah, so that was great. I mean, I don't know what happened, but he's like, I'm going to go to Arkansas and do this program. It's like a 6-month, I'll be back. And then I was like, all right. I was hurt. I cried. And I remember it was like, wow, okay. But I knew he had to do what he had to do. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know I was going to end up here too. But it was like, so several months went by, and he's like, Vanessa, I'm not going to come back to California. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, sorry. He's like, well, you come out here and do a program. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't need that. I'm not going to do that. And then I just thought about it more and more. And during that time, I was just hanging out at a friend's house. He's an older friend of his family that he knew. But my mom didn't want me drinking, so I could go over there and drink without fighting with her. Mm-hmm. And I was with my son, too, my oldest, who was really just a pain in my neck. He was. And we just really bumped heads big time. And so I would go over there, and her brother, he's older than her, like, gosh, he's in his 70s, and he's still getting high doing meth. Oh. And he was right there, and I was drinking. I was probably, feeling real good. And he's like, oh, here. And he hands me the pipe, and I'm like, no, I don't do that. So next thing you know, I ended up, taking a hit. And I didn't really get too much into it, but I was doing it a little bit before I came out here. And that was when I ended up looking up and finding my program. And I enrolled myself, into a program, which is The Way. It's a really good program, faith-based. It was 2 hours away in Paragould. And I came out here a year ago in February. And
we're in February now.
Yeah, it's a year ago. It'll be on the 13th, I believe I left.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going on my year of sobriety. I did not know what I was doing. I was really scared. But I just thought, what do I got to lose? And I'm not going to lose my husband. We've been together for so long. And I love him so much. And
Jeremiah.
And Jeremiah. Yes. And then Jeremiah, I'm like, no, you can't take everybody.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave my mom because we just lost my brother. Mm-hmm. And I was just really scared for her. But my mom, towards the end, I was so horrible. She's like, you need to go. You need to go do a program. You need to go get yourself help. So she kind of gave me the okay, and I felt better about that. But, yeah, so now I did my program, and I went from there to a secular program in Jonesboro, and I did that program. And it was different, but I already knew what I needed. Mm-hmm. I needed Jesus, and I needed my sobriety. Mm-hmm. And I got my relationship back with God. And it's kind of like a country song, right? Where you play it backwards. I got everything. I got my husband back. I got my Jesus back. I'm sober, but yeah. So and everything is it's just been an amazing journey this past year, and just having my Jesus back. That is the main thing. It was so hard. I thought, oh, it would be easy, but I just couldn't for the longest time.
Give up the other stuff.
Yeah, no, I would go to church and everything, but I just couldn't do it for some reason over there in California. I don't know why, but when Zack came out here and then he had Jesus, I was like, wow, how amazing. I've been praying for these things all this time, and now God has brought it to, to pass. And, so it's been exciting, just knowing the Lord and all his goodness. When I came out here, I told myself, I'm done, Lord. I give it to you. I surrender. I'm going to trust in you for everything because I got nothing else. And you're the only way. And I guess I wasn't really completely trusting in him, but coming out here, not knowing anybody.
Yeah, that was a big step because when you moved out here, you weren't in the same community that Zack and Jeremiah lived in.
No.
You're about an hour away.
Yes. Yeah. So it was rough.
Yeah.
And I, dealt with a lot of people, being around a lot of women, living with them was not easy.
Yeah.
And, it was a lot of challenges, but you know what? God used those times to help me grow as far as dealing with people that are difficult, how to handle people like that, just in a spiritual way, just to love them no matter what. And it's hard, but I did the hard part. I mean, I would have to say, I don't know. It was good. Nobody liked me because I just loved the Lord too much. And I was just smiling all the time and they just didn't like me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. You don't realize, a couple months ago, I was in my room crying, desperate.
Yeah.
In a horrible, situation, lonely. My husband was gone. You don't even understand. I'm happy now. I'm sorry. But yeah, I did have a lot of haters. So.
And since then, your second son, Jacob, moved out here.
Yes.
And he's working somewhere here and going to church here with us.
Yes, that is amazing. That's a whole amazing story in itself. He was going through a really tough time, and I don't want to say too much on it, but we just, I was really concerned for him. And I don't know what happened, but I was praying any mom would pray for their child, and I was pleading to God, and I don't know what happened from California to Arkansas, but he is just a totally different person. And our relationship is great. And it's just crazy. Wow, Lord.
Yeah.
What did you do, Jesus? I want to know. I want to hear one day from him. What happened there? I know I was praying, but man, so.
He answered a prayer there.
Yes. So I have both of my boys out here, which is great. And
so what do you see yourself doing from here on out?
Well, I just plan to keep serving the Lord and whatever he wants me to do, as far as maybe helping people that are going through recovery. That's something that I would love to do because I've always wanted to be that. I've always been that type of person to help others, but encourage others, but yet, God will do this for you, but never think he'll do it for me. But
right.
That I know now he will, but just wherever God takes us to do.
You're involved in some of the Celebrate Recovery meetings, and I know that you're able to encourage others that are in those meetings too. And also, you and Zack are a part of the Harbor.
Yes.
And so I know that you're able to encourage the residents.
Yes. Yeah, I try, I do, and I definitely pray all the time for the people that are coming in and the people that are here, and that God would just do a work in them, because without Jesus, we really can't do this without him, sobriety. If it wasn't for the Lord, I would still be stuck drinking and all that, but, once you find God, everything changes. You just change. You just don't want to do those things anymore. So it is good to be a part of this. I've always wanted to do something as far as, like I said, for God's kingdom. So when I do, it does come to that point, my end of life, and I do stand before him, that I could be proud.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Yes. It's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me.
Thank you for joining us today. New episodes release every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe and get notified when a new episode is available. You can listen on the Journey to Salvation website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So, where are you on your journey to salvation?